Welcome to Medicine Talk ND Live, where you can discover life without medicine. Join us live 12 to 1 CST every weekday, where you can talk to a naturopathic doctor for free and learn more about naturopathic medicine. ND Live is brought to you in partnership with FullScript, the doctor's choice for delivering the safest source of professional-grade supplements to their patients.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our interview today with Dr. Gail Littell. I'm Eli Camp, one of the members of Medicine Talk, and we're doing this as part of our ND Live program, where people can call in 12 to 1 Central Standard Time every weekday and some weekends to actually talk with naturopathic doctors and find out more about what it is and if it's something that they should consider on their journey to health. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Littell. And you have a practice in Indiana.
Yes, Southern Indiana.
Wow. That, I used to live in Illinois. And
okay.
Sometimes, I'll tell you, winters were brutal. We'd get snowed in and the door would be all the way to the top of the door frame, but that must be, 30, 35, almost 40 years ago.
I lost a barn.
Oh no.
Those big snows, and just right before I started naturopathic school.
Right. Well, I think folks out there are really curious about us, about, why people become naturopathic doctors. And would you share some of your story with us?
Well, you can probably see I'm a bit older than some of the doctors, that are just starting out right now. My first exposure to naturopathic medicine was around 1978. I had twins who turned 3 while I was in school, and the school that I was in was a massage therapy school in Arizona. And that's where I was introduced to naturopathic medicine. And boy, it's, coming from a farming background, and it just clicked. Mm-hmm. So I thought about trying to go to school then, and of course that wasn't going to work. I had a very young family, and then, my husband wasn't keen on the idea too.
Right.
So time went forward. I had another child, and that child was born at home with a licensed naturopathic doctor in attendance. And it was the most wonderful birth, and I never forgot that. So going on forward, then it was probably 30 years mm-hmm. after a long, just raising my children being my focus, and doing a lot of interesting things, I think is the way I want to say, on the side, that I went back to school. So I'm a fairly new graduate, and I love the challenge. I love the way naturopathic medicine pulls together all of my interests, like natural stuff, being outside, being in the woods, observing nature, observing the patterns in nature, and realizing that there's an order to everything.
Right.
And trying to figure out, because you can kind of see where sometimes it's kind of a gut feeling. You can look at something, you can just see that's out of order, or that's not right, that's not quite right, and then your mind starts rolling, going, well, how would it, what would make it help bring it back in line to where it was right? So that's kind of what naturopathic medicine is to me.
Right.
A roundabout way. As you can tell, I'm more comfortable in the woods.
Well, I was gonna say that growing up on a farm, I'm sure that you were and are very in tune with the natural order of things and the rhythm, and that everything has a pattern, and if you do something one way, you always get the same result. And if you do something another way, you get a different result. So,
well, you don't always get the same result, but you have expectation, and you know that if you violate certain quote unquote laws, that you know, you're not going to get anything.
right.
Right. That your animals are going to die or get sick.
So now we haven't talked a lot about this on the different interviews I've done. We probably ought to have, but this is a great time to bring it up. So for those of you who may or may not know out there, some states in our country are licensed, meaning a naturopathic doctor can get a license to practice medicine in that state, and some states are not licensed. We license more and more states every year. But Indiana is not a licensed state, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We actually, we're in the process, and we actually have a bill that was just introduced as of this recording being made just a week ago.
That is exciting. And what can people do, or where can they go if they want more information or they want to get involved?
Well, right now, because we're still updating our inanp.org website, they can go to my website, which is creeksidenaturalmedicine.com.
Okay.
And I have different links there, but the best thing right now, because we're kind of, the bill's just been assigned to committee. And so it's, you know, we're still getting our feet under us. So the best thing, rather than to send letters, because I need to update my website also, is to contact me through my contact page. And then I will put you on our legislative list so that we can give you updates and, you know, calls for action when we need.
Excellent. Excellent. Good news. So, and maybe just a couple of words about licensing. So to be able to get a license to practice, this allows the naturopathic doctor to do what they were trained to do, right? And it protects the public so that when they find someone who's called a naturopathic doctor, they know that they had a very specific kind of education and that there is some governing body that makes sure that they do what they're supposed to do and don't do what they're not supposed to do. So it's very beneficial for all parties involved to have a law that licenses us in a state. Now, I've asked all of the NDs what their favorite herb is, and to tell us a little bit about that herb. What's your favorite herb today?
The one I'm going to mention, I have a love-hate relationship with.
Uh-oh.
Yes, because I not only grew up on a farm, but I finally was able to get my own in 1994. So, but it's mostly woods. So, you know, I do like, you know, wild crafting herbs and that sort of thing. And, but it was certified organic for many years, and I ran it that way with animals and all. When I left, none of my kids live around here anymore. And, but I had one child that was, well, 45 minutes away at the time. And so he would mow occasionally for me just to keep it so it wasn't, you know, over my head when I would come back from school, because I went to school in Canada. So stinging nettle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I live in a holler, and stinging nettle, I know exactly what it is because I planted it and then it went to seed, and it loves this climate, and it loved my holler. And so I have been mowing it. I've been ripping it out, saying, I want you on the farm. I just don't want so much of you.
Right, not so much of you. And
but it's so nutritious, and it actually is good for the soil, if believe it or not. It makes the soil really friable, you know, and you know, it's high in minerals. It's just so nutritious. So I make teas, but I also eat it. And I tell the patients, you know, I can make a quiche with lamb's quarters, which is like a wild spinach.
Yeah.
That gets way up over your head, tall. And I use half lamb's quarters and half nettle. and it's really good. That's a key. So there are just a lot of, there are a lot of uses for it.
I use it in tea form quite often.
Yes, and I do that too, but you try quiche.
I will. That sounds really good.
I actually dry a lot of the leaves along with the lamb's quarters, so that I'll have some for winter. I lose some of the vitamin C and such, but the minerals are still going to be there.
Well, sure,
and
absolutely.
Do the quiche.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And tell us a little bit about your practice.
Well, it's a private practice. It's small, obviously fairly new. I graduated in 2013. I operate in a building that I've had for several years. I bought it before I went back to school, and I practiced massage therapy out of it for a few years. I didn't mention I guess I did kind of mention with the school, but I've been a massage therapist since '78. And so I kind of see, I guess you could say, cradle to grave people, and I'm not really afraid of any condition, because I don't treat, quote unquote, the condition. It's one of those things where you see the patterns and you try to help the person get back, back on their feet, back in line. And so I get to know my patients. We take time to talk. Sometimes the longer people talk, you find out more. And I've heard, you may have heard this too, if you let someone talk, if you let a patient talk long enough, they'll tell you what's wrong with them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have found that to be very true. So I use, because I'm in an unlicensed state at the time, at this present time, I can use, because of my massage therapy certification, I can use hydrotherapy, hands-on, which you can do a lot with soft tissue work, and Chapman's reflexes, as we've talked about, and herbs. I use biotherapeutic drainage, which is a form of homeopathic medicine, and nutrition and nutraceuticals, counseling. There's some things that I'm limited on, but you can actually do quite a bit in an unlicensed state, because you're a consultant. You're guiding people through a process, because they have to be involved. They can't just come in and say, I want something for this, give me something for this. Although people do that.
Right. Well,
and then it's an education thing. It's an education process where you're like, well, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? And, and encouraging them to take responsibility for where they go from here on out. Absolutely.
So if people would like to schedule an appointment with you, you gave us your website. Go ahead and give it to us again, and however else they can get a hold of you.
Okay, it's Creekside naturalmedicine.com. Obviously, my practice is right beside a creek, literally. It's on Broad Creek.
Nice.
At the edge of a bridge. And it's a small town. We have probably about 7,000 people in Salem, less than 30,000 in our entire county, in Washington County.
Wow.
So rural, which I love.
Right.
So Creekside Natural Medicine contact page. Also through the IANAP website, which is INANP.org. And there's a Find a Doctor page on there.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, I am so thankful that you joined us today to share your story and some words of wisdom about naturopathic medicine. And everyone, you can find Dr. Littell in the places she just mentioned. And you can also talk to her once a month on ND Live. Just hop over to medicinetalk.org, and ND Live is right there on the front page. You can read a little bit more about her there. And there's also a calendar, so you know who is speaking on what day, who's present. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Sure enough, Eli. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Visit medicinetalk.org to join us at ND Live today. And be sure to ask your doctor about Fullscript.